Mr. President, today I join my colleagues and all Arkansans in support of and prayers for the people of Southeast Texas and all the victims of Hurricane Harvey. But I also want to express our thanks on behalf of a grateful nation. All of you reminded us of the American spirit at a time when we needed it pretty badly. August wasn't an easy month for our country. First in Charlottesville, then in Berkeley, we saw some pretty disgusting things. Racism, anarchism, mob violence. If all you knew about America was what you saw on the cable news and social media, you might think it was disintegrating into two armed camps of communists and neo-Nazis. Images reminiscent of dark days in the last century appeared on our screens. Torchlight marches, black masked thugs, political violence in the street, beatings, and even a murder. But none of these contemptible people represent America, certainly not what is best in America. They can't even begin to understand what makes this country great, because this country's destiny was always to be more than new battlegrounds for old hatreds. It was meant to be a mighty fortress for the rights of all Americans. Our destiny is to be the home of mankind's aspiration for freedom, not the twisted delusions of grandeur of pathetic losers. The vast majority of Americans, of whatever color, faith, age, region, celebrate this creed and they welcome this destiny. And that's exactly why we shouldn't amplify irrelevant fringe voices. It creates the illusion that a trivial, impotent minority is in fact a large and powerful movement against the dictates of common sense and experience. To my knowledge, I've never met a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, or a left-wing anarchist, and nor have the Arkansans to whom I spoke the last month. But you'd think they number in the tens of millions while watching TV or surfing the web in the last month. The drive for ratings and clicks seemed to leave a lot of Americans wondering, is this America? Is this who we've become? And then Hurricane Harvey made landfall. The stories and the images followed and once again proved the old maxim: adversity doesn't teach character, it reveals character. And what it revealed is an American spirit as strong, as brave, and as loving as ever. Law enforcement and other first responders performed bravely and skillfully, as always. But what was striking was how ordinary citizens answered the call to duty. There was Jim McIngvale, better known as Mattress Mac. Anyone who's ever lived in Houston knows you can't watch TV without seeing a Mattress Mac commercial. But Mac wasn't selling mattresses that day. He was saving families. He turned 2 furniture stores into relief centers and opened his doors to anyone seeking shelter. Soon, he had 400 people at each store, sleeping on recliners, sofas, love seats, you name it. He gave out his personal cell number for people to call for help. If they couldn't reach his store because of the flooding, he sent his delivery trucks to go get them. Asked about his generosity, Mattress Mac replied, "I'm a big believer that it's better to give than to take." But not everyone had Mattress Mac to go to. Some people had to call their local Chick-fil-A. Jeffrey Urban went to work just to make sure everything was all right when he noticed a familiar phone number flashing across the caller ID. It was James, a regular customer, who called that morning to place a once-in-a-lifetime order: 2 grilled chicken burritos with extra egg and a boat. Urban called the owner, Cindy Smith, who sent her husband with his boat to the Spencers' home. But there wasn't enough room in the boat for both of them and their possessions. But luckily, 2 heroes on jet skis arrived, Keith Christensen and Winston Savis Jr. When J.C. took a photo of his wife Karen sitting atop a jet ski while Winston sped her to safety, an internet sensation was born. After weeks of our living rooms being filled with the sounds and imagery of hatred, we are suddenly overcome with stories of bravery and sacrifice. There was the local reporter, Brandy Smith, who flagged down a rescue crew to help a truck driver trapped in his vehicle. There was Houston SWAT officer, Daryl Hudick, who carried a young mother, Catherine Bam, and her 13-month-old son, Aiden, to dry land. There was a Catholic priest, David Bergeron, who kayaked around his neighborhood, offering to say Mass for anyone in town. And then there was an unknown man from Texas City who, when asked what he was doing with his boat under a flooded underpass, said he and his friends were there to save some lives. So many images have already become iconic. Sheriff's deputy carrying 2 children through the floodwaters. The Cajun Navy from Louisiana lined up on a highway like soldiers readying for a battle, as far as the eye could see. But perhaps the most telling image of all was the human chain. When Andrea Smith went into labor in her flooded apartment, her neighbors formed a human chain to help her reach a dump truck that had come to take her to the hospital. There was no pride of place, no rank, no distinction. Just humble, selfless Americans joining hands to help a neighbor in a time of need. You could say that human chain was a symbol, because when you step back and soak it all in, you realize that this is America. This is who we are as a nation. Not those ideological zealots, not racists and communists. Their blinded eyes cannot see the dignity and love in that unbroken human chain. Though we've never lost this spirit of America, we do occasionally lose sight of it, which is why people in that human chain, the people who heeded the call, who put their stranded countrymen first. They didn't mistake malice for power, and they understand the greatest power of all is love. They're an inspiration to all of us here in this chamber, and indeed to all the world. And they're the reason we look to Houston, a city much embattled, though not embittered, and take pride in what we see.